I try not to go in with one specific technique because every job is so unique in its different requirements. So there's a focus and there's an understanding and approach to work which is sort of universal. And there are givens. There are certain parameters you have to work in as an actor. Simply for the reasons that I think it keeps you able to adapt your craft, to learn from those around you. And so, yeah, there are some jobs that are much more like the method than others. I mean, I work with Katie Mitchell in the theatre, and she provides such an intense process. You don't need to have gone to acting school in order to be able to be in one of her productions. She gives you such a kind of complex, multiply led kind of focal point to hook your character on, whether it's the temperature of the room, whether it's the sound that the neighbour's dog's just made, whether it's the memory that the photograph that's not even on the set but that you've talked about in rehearsal is giving you as you look across the room to the counter to the left of the wife you're talking to, lying about the fact that you've been fired. I mean, just all this stuff, to the point that we got to first night and it was a real shock having an audience for a start. It was just like, what, you know, that happened, and I was like, why? That's not funny, because in my mind that's something very, very different. And then once that was played in, it was wonderful. As an actor approaching a role, you have to find a level of empathy and understanding with your character. And I think to try and carve out anything that's two-dimensional, to go into this realm of is he you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, I find that so limiting, and that's a selfish perspective. I'm not saying that's prescriptive for everyone and other people's working methods and how people will view or receive the film or my work in it, but certainly as an actor I want to find out what the three-dimensionality is behind a character and what motivates them, what's human about them. And that's not to soften the edges at all, that's just purely because it's nearer, I guess, to a human experience, so there's some common ground for an audience to understand the character's motivations, because then it's something that we can relate to rather than something that's ostracized from us and something that's telling us how to feel and think. And I personally get bored when I watch that type of work, and I get bored doing that type of work. So that's the motivation behind what I try to create. Because I was watching her bring Vi Weston to life, and I was going, how the fuck is she doing that? She's playing grief, she's playing esophageal cancer, she's playing the effects of the cancer drugs or not the drugs, she's playing the uppers and downers that she's taking, and she's playing everything that's been boiling in her since a child, since an abused child, being an abused child. And I just saw this actress at the height of her powers being able to play every single note of her character like not even a conductor of an orchestra, but like she was literally running around and playing every instrument. And it was really phenomenal. And I thought, how the hell did you begin? What was the first in? And did you work from the outside in this one? And anyway, we had a cigarette. It was election night, and we were chatting around the balcony. So I've got to ask you. It's wonderful watching you work. And how do you start? Do you have a base that you always build from? And she went, what do you mean, like a specific technique? And I went, yeah. And she went, no, I think it changes all the time. And I went, oh my God, thank God to hear someone say that, because that's what I do. That's what I'd always done. And I mean, I was very lucky. I had a very privileged upbringing, but at the same time, I would always make sure that I understood what it was that I was a part of and what I wanted to be distant from. To just see lots, read lots, hear lots, experience life as well, and just keep observing, really observing, not just looking and seeing, but sort of observing. I mean, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. It's a difficult job. And with all the success comes a whole new load of problems. So it's forever, the landscape of it's forever changing. I would say that it's just, I've always felt instinctively that it would limit the range of the work that you are capable of doing if you had one method that you imposed on everybody else that you're collaborating with. And an awful lot of plays, an awful lot of acting, but an awful lot of other things around that which fed into the acting. And I think that started my kind of understanding that it's part of a total art form. It's not just something in isolation. It just gave me appreciation of context. And I think from that, it gave me an appreciation of what the duty is to kind of, and also the enjoyment of further education as an actor to further research your role. So I went into drama school with that, and of course, LAMDA, like many drama schools, there are various approaches, very much, you know, the inside out or the outside in. But for the first time, I realized after maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 years or something of playing all sorts of different roles, especially after my voice finally broke when I was about, I don't know, 22. I played a lot of girls when I was younger too. But I realized that I had to be a version of myself, and you can never fully escape yourself. You're always partly there, of course you are, and you're in the limits of your own body to an extent. So it's about understanding that you can do the hatbox stuff, you can have great fun doing everything from playing really kind of diversify what you want to try and change yourself into. But drama school taught me about just being still and centered and having a very kind of measured approach to text, to not jump the gun, to sit in the words for longer, not jump to intuition all the time, or at least if you had that first instinct, that you could then work a long way around it to come back full circle to that initial feeling of understanding a character or a moment or an objective or an obstacle to overcome. And it employed that language. So, you know, it's all this stuff you get on acting page 1. And that was really useful, just to put the brakes on and just evaluate where I was with that, my real understanding of it, and not just skim over it, which obviously I think I probably had done a lot at school. And I really, for the first time in my life, didn't fear judgment on the press night. I thought, to hell with it, and that's really what it all should be about anyway. You know, you should just be committing to the work and not worrying about the perception of it. You've made that compact with the director and your fellow actors, and it's about carrying that through. And it's not just about press night, it's about building to that last performance. Every day you're making new discoveries and moving it forwards. Within certain confines. You're a character, you've got certain tactics you can employ to overcome your obstacles, but you can't just suddenly bring in something you could do as another character. You can't just deduce the shit out of it like Sherlock if you're someone who has a little lower IQ and is not so kind of focused as that man.